everybody. Chargers Central here. Looking forward to the matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday at SoFi. How's it going, Levon?
Going good. How about you?
Good. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, a lot of uncertainty in terms of just who's going to play. Obviously, Perriman practiced yesterday, so did Ladd, which is good. If they get in a full practice by the end of this week, I think they both play. They were both limited last week too, so chances of them playing this week are higher, I would say, than last week. Herbert obviously didn't practice. He's banged up. Ankle, I believe. He also re-injured. Not great. There was some swelling, they said, so not great. I don't see him missing a game. I think he'll push through. It's just how much do you want to push him?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we need these wins to make the playoffs. But I could guarantee that week 18, he doesn't play. By then, we should have clinched. So you got to keep him healthy for the playoffs.
Well, what if you're playing for that 5 seed? That 5 seed might not be locked up. So,
I mean, if we can win these next three, I think we can lock that 5 seed up before we even play the Raiders. Because you're looking at the Ravens' schedule is pretty tough. They play the Steelers and the Texans, so you never know. It's a brutal schedule for all of these teams. Broncos play the Colts and then the Chargers, so a lot can change. I just they need to find a way to rest him a little before the playoffs, because if we don't have him, the season's washed.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be very mobile on Sunday. It's going to be like before early on the season where he couldn't move around much. It limits him. But he's still a great passer. That's not going to stop him from throwing bullets everywhere. The line just has to hold up, and the scary thing about this game is the Tampa Bay interior defensive line is strong with Vita Vea and I forget who the other defensive tackle is, but they have a good pair in there, and our weakness is our interior line. So if they're getting pressure and Herbert can't move, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's scary because he's already injured. So I don't know. You got to start Salyer. I mean, there's no other way to put it, especially this game. Their defensive tackles are the real deal. I wouldn't risk putting Pipkins out there unless, I don't know what he has on this organization that they keep starting him. Truly, like, it just doesn't make sense. But their defense is solid. Their offense, obviously, they have Mike Evans. Didn't practice yesterday. It's probably a rest day for him. Bucky Irving did not practice, and that's an injury to watch this week. If he doesn't practice today, but gets into practice tomorrow, he likely plays. But if he doesn't play, that's huge for the Chargers, because their 3 weapons, or 4, are Irving, Evans, White, and Otton. So that takes away a weapon there. That's like J.K. Dobbins not playing, basically, for us. So Bucky not playing is huge if he doesn't play. If he does play, we need Perriman out there, because we've seen these running backs kind of torment this defense in the recent weeks that Perriman's been out. So we need him out there because they really have a 2-headed monster in Tampa with Irving and White.
Yeah, I agree. And we really need to establish the run on early downs. We can't do these 1-2 yard gains and then we have to pass, then we're in these obvious passing situations and teams can, just go after Herbert like that. We need to get going on the ground. We've seen some nice runs from Vidal. Gus has had a few. And if anyone can design it for this team, it would be Greg Roman.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah. So And to protect Herbert, we need to run the ball too, so he's not getting hit. Um, so that'll be huge this game, and hopefully Ladd plays, because he's such a security blanket for Herbert. He can get open at any time, and you know so quick, so Herbert can just get him the ball instead of Herbert holding for these other receivers to get open.
Especially this week without Will Disley.
Yeah,
Stone Smart's likely our tight end one now. Played well.
and he played well.
He played well. That Tampa secondary is pretty weak.
Yeah.
So the receivers got to exploit it. They got to take advantage of it. And if Ladd plays, he's going to do just that. I think even Johnson and Palmer should be able to, after seeing how they played last week. The one thing I'm curious to see is if Ladd plays, which we hope he does. Are Johnson and Palmer going to be able to hold their own? Because we've seen them, have disastrous games like against Baltimore, where Ladd did play and played well. But then he doesn't play and they shine. So we need to see that consistently. If we see that, I don't see the Bucs beating us. And even if Ladd plays and still produces the levels he did against, let's say, the Falcons, I still don't see them beating us. It's just not the same without Godwin. Obviously, they're still a threat because they need to be divisional leaders. They got to win to do that. And every game is a must win for them, basically, because it's just such a tight race right now in their division. So they want every game, but so do we. So let's see. It should be a win, but I'm not going to count out the Bucs. They're sneaky good.
Yeah, you can't count them out. You can't count out Baker Mayfield either. He can be dangerous. I still remember that game a couple years back at SoFi when he was playing with Cleveland, where it was just a crazy barn burner shootout, craziest shootout I've ever seen. Each team had like 40 something points, and we barely came back and won that game. I remember being so pumped at the stadium. I bought a Mike Williams jersey there because he had a huge game, it could, well, with our defense, you would think they would stop them from that kind of shootout. But he's still dangerous, and he can also turn the ball over. So we got to hope to try to get some turnovers from Baker this time.
Yeah, and I think you brought that up. That's what fans want to see Herbert. That's the form that fans want to see Herbert in. But obviously, we're not going to see that this year, at least. But it would be fun to watch again. Baker, he struggled against the Raiders. He threw 2 picks, I think, 2 touchdowns. Look, I'm a fan of Baker. He's dangerous, and you always have to be paying attention to him. But if you take away Mike Evans, he's going to be struggling. Cade Otton is basically his other target. The other receivers, they're not involved as much. Like Trey Palmer doesn't get involved much. Sterling Shepard here and there, but he's way past his prime now and all those injuries that he's had. So the 3 main guys on that team are Evans, Bucky, and White. So you take Evans away, he's going to really be playing more the short pass game compared to the deep game. That's what you want. But if he, was struggling against the Raiders in Tampa, we got to do even better at home. And we can, and we should.
Yeah, and having the corners back, having Cam Hart and Still back there and Fulton, you think we would be able to do a pretty good job. They did a great job in KC.
Yeah.
And we just need, like Cam Hart to deliver one of those big hits to Mike Evans, if he's going for a long bomb or something.
Yeah. Usually the long bombs for Baker seem to be midfield. And just takes a shot to Evans. It's not from, their own end zone, like we see other quarterbacks do. Maybe it's just safer for him to do that compared to, throwing a deeper bomb and getting picked off in a pick 6. So he kind of takes care of the ball in that sense. But still, sometimes he throws erratic passes. And you got to take advantage of those. Obviously, Herbert has not turned the ball over since week 2. We hope to see that again this week. Again, that secondary is something to exploit. So let's see these receivers go out and, get 30, 40 yards. Maybe see a deep bomb from Herbert to either Johnston or Chark if Chark plays. But I expect Latt to kind of dominate Sunday if he plays. There's no one on that defense that can cover him, and that should be his game.
Yeah, I would think Chark would play because Rager got hurt that last game.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not Chark, then it would be
Darius
Chanel.
Davis or
yeah. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see who that fourth wide receiver is. But and on the defensive side, that interior is what troubles me the most. And now without Disley, he's a great blocking tight end. That's an extra blocker you lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean we still have the Fisk as our blocking tight end.
Matlock.
He's
used a lot more now.
Yeah. So we'll see what they can do. But
this is where you kind of miss Hayden Hurst because he was a good blocker and also could catch passes. He's been out for a good amount of weeks now. This is where you need him back. Obviously, he's recovering from something. Hopefully, he's back by the playoffs. But Stone Smart, let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can build on that performance from last week. And Fisk, he's going to have to be a blocking tight end. Also, I saw him playing fullback a couple times on Sunday. Let's see if that continues. He caught a couple passes. So let's see what we can do with these guys. I'm confident in Stone Smart now. He surprised me on Sunday because we were just thinking of him as a blocking tight end. And he was tight end 3 on the depth chart. So I was like, okay, tight end 3 and last year too behind Parham and Everett. So I was like, okay, maybe this guy can catch a pass. But what we saw last week, I was like, okay, no, he can. And let's see if he can build on that.
Yeah, I think he had a game like that last season too, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah, possibly later in the season.
Yeah, later in the season. I mean, this is opportunity right now. So you would think he would, take full advantage of that. And we're going to need him. We're going to need everybody. Hopefully, maybe they'll have Gus do some fullback work again too, like he did early in the season. Get some blocks for Vidal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happened. The Dobbins touchdown is what you're talking about, where Gus was the fullback.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I think that happened before we got Hassan Haskins, because now I'm seeing Haskins in that role. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't know if Harbaugh wants to use Haskins in that role or not, but it seems like he's kind of the blocking RB.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, he doesn't seem as big as Gus.
No,
I'm not sure why he's out there so much. I know that there's a Michigan connection, and Harbaugh loves those Michigan guys. But I want to see Vidal more, because he has those explosive plays, and just give him more opportunities. Now is a chance without Dobbins.
Yeah, running backs, they need to get a rhythm. You can't just get a few carries, and we saw him be explosive with just a few carries, but feed him the rock, 15 times and see what he can do. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's all those first downs where they only get a yard or two.
I think that's the big issue. The first and second downs. Against a team like the Buccaneers, who can score a lot of points, and against the Broncos, if you can't get 4 or 5 yards on that first carry, you got to throw the ball, because otherwise you're wasting 2 opportunities there, and Herbert just has 1 opportunity to get a first down compared to having 2. So I want to see them get 4 or 5 yards, and I want to see them get another 2-3 yards and get closer to that first down. Give Herbert less work, because at this point it's like you're pinning him back and they're pressuring, and it's like, okay, what do you want him to do? when he has to throw 9, 10, 11 yards to get the first down. It's another thing when it's second and he has 2 opportunities, but it's another thing when it's third and 1 opportunity to get the first. It's not easy.
Yeah, there was some interesting comments by Coach Harbaugh about that last Kansas City game, on the decision not to kick the field goal. Um, oh, well, actually, this came from Matt Money Smith. He said that it was really windy at that time, so he could see why they didn't kick the field goal there. But Harbaugh said on that 3rd and 16 play where they ran the ball instead of passing to try to get a first down near the end of the game, they did that because they didn't want Herbert to get sacked and possibly lose, field goal position. And he's saying, if he had to do it over again, he'd like to have another shot. But yeah, I mean, that's something they have to worry about, on obvious passing plays when that interior line can't hold up. Is Herbert going to get sacked? And this coaching staff is worried about that,
And they should be, because like if he's out, we're done. I mean, I'll say that right now. As much as I love Vlad and those guys, doesn't matter. If Herbert does not play, Heineke's a good backup QB, but he's a backup. So you can't expect too much from a backup. He's not a Nick Foles, right? That's going to take you to the Super Bowl. If he gets hurt seriously, we're done. So you got to that's the number 1 priority. Take care of your quarterback. And if they see that he's being pressured, if they're afraid that he's going to get sacked, why not make a change? Bench Pipkins. Yeah. I don't understand. And Salyer's role is right guard. It wasn't right tackle. Yeah. So you not Telesco drafted him, but they drafted him as a right guard. Why not use him as a right guard instead of using a right tackle as right guard? Even as right tackle, Pipkins wasn't good. So I don't understand it. And I hope to see Salyer more on Sunday because we're going to need it.
Yeah, definitely. And then Zion was struggling the last game too. But finding 3 offensive linemen next off season is going to be, that's you got to think that's the number 1 priority, and that's a tall task to find 3 good linemen. To short up. Yeah.
I think later in the rounds in the draft, you can get a left guard, right guard, but center, like I was saying on Monday, should come from free agency because you at least need a reliable veteran center, and that makes a huge difference. But Zion Johnson, at least he's younger than Pipkins. Like he has room to develop because Pipkins he's past his prime already. Yeah. So that ceiling is gone. Now we've reached the floor, and that's not good. So you got to do something there.
You do. I think the coaching staff, what they liked about him is his big frame. They saw the potential with that big body. If he could just
Alts, especially, I could see that.
Yeah,
but it's just not working.
No.
And also, like all these defenders beating him, it deteriorates his confidence too. So I get it. It's also in his head. But, I mean, come on. The number 1 priority is protecting the quarterback. And if you can't do that, you should not be on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that simple. And we'll see what happens. But that's going to be a huge issue. These next 2 games are so big for us, we could lose and then still win the last 2 and still make the playoffs, but you don't want to like squeak into the playoffs and be a 7 seed. Yeah,
definitely not. You do not want to play in Buffalo. I'm telling you right now. Like I've said this since last year, since we started this podcast. You do not want to play in Buffalo. It's just a recipe for disaster. I think even playing in Pittsburgh is okay compared to Buffalo, but you don't want to play there either. Like you want to play Houston. And right now we're 6th, I believe. We still have a good chance to get 5th. Just that tiebreaker difference, right, with the Ravens. So next week's game is a lot bigger. But to get to next week's game, you got to win Sunday. And I would kind of be rooting for Indianapolis on Sunday because if the Broncos lose, that puts them at, I believe, 8-6. So that's big for us because we can beat them next week. We've already beaten them once. We can beat them at home, I think, and go to 10-5, meaning the Broncos will be 8-7. So that's a 2-game difference right there. So these 2 games are huge. We should take care of business the next last 2 weeks. Hopefully, get to the playoffs 12-5. But
yeah. Well, getting that win against the Broncos is huge because that actually adds like an extra game because we'll have the tiebreaker.
yeah,
So that would be like a 3-game, lead, which
Yeah.
they're not going to catch up to that. Even if they do win and we beat them, that
Right.
that's a 2-game lead.
hmm
So
yeah, and I don't see us losing the next 2 against the Patriots and the Raiders. There's no reason to lose to either of those teams. But I don't want to hear from fans that they got an easy way into the playoffs. We should win these next 2 so that we don't hear that. Because we're going to hear it. If we lose these 2 and beat the Raiders and the Patriots, we're going to hear it. But I don't think we lose 3 in a row. I'll say that right now. There's no way we lose 3 in a row. We're going to win Sunday, I believe. And then the good thing about that Thursday game is that we stay at home. And the Broncos have to travel here after a gruesome match against the Colts. That's going to be a heavyweight match. I would not even think many points are going to be scored that game. Like, that Denver defense is serious. Like, they're scary. Good luck to Anthony Richardson because he's going to need it. Broncos could put up points possibly, but Colts defense is decent. They're nothing special. They're middle of the pack. But the Broncos defense, good luck scoring on them in Denver. It's not easy. It never is. But this year, they are a threat.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, we can't look ahead and look past the Bucs. That's what Harbaugh's staff has been good about. Having the guys stay focused on what's at hand, taking care of business against the teams that they should, and they've done that. This season,
as it should be, because you never know what might happen from week to week.
Yeah,
a player might get injured. It might deteriorate your season. So you just never know.
And we saw under Staley when you don't have a great staff, how many games did we lose we should have won? There were way too many, Think of all those extra playoff, appearances we could have had if we didn't lose so many games we should have won,
Yeah. I mean, each season, I would say at best or at worst, we should have been 8-8. At worst, we should have been 8-8. That's how many games we've lost. Like, we were 5-12 last season. We should have been 9-8.
Yeah.
At the worst, we should have been 9-8.
Yeah. But hey, better times are ahead. We got Harbaugh now. Now the championship window is open. From this season on. You make it into the playoffs, you've got a shot to do. Yeah,
you never know what might happen.
You never know. It's like the fantasy playoffs. Just get in and you get hot. You can win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to play Pittsburgh just because they're a better team than Houston, and we beat them for fans to say, wow, they beat a good team. And then imagine divisional game against the Chiefs. Like, we should win that with Dobbins back too. So, like, if we play Houston, great, because, we should win that game. But even if we don't, I still think we have a chance against Pittsburgh. But like you said, we should just, take it game by game because injuries happen, upsets happen. And also on top of all that, there are a lot of important matchups coming up, like Steelers, Ravens, Pittsburgh, Kansas City. Bills play the Lions. That could change the seeding between Pittsburgh and Buffalo. So a lot of undecided still. And there are more games. It's just off the top of my head, those are the games I remember. Baltimore, Houston. So a lot of games that could decide the seeding. So take it week by week.
Yeah, definitely. And we can look at the standings right now to see what everything is right now. So yeah, Chiefs and Bills right now at the top.
Yeah.
Steelers, Texans, Ravens, Chargers, Broncos, and then yeah, I mean the Colts are right behind the Broncos there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with the Colts is that's interesting. First off, they barely beat the Patriots. So let's see if they can beat the Broncos, that would be huge. I just don't see it. If they do, I'd be surprised. But let's say they do. They're in a unique position here because they're 2 games out of the fifth. Because yeah, they're 6-7,
Mm.
and fifth seed is the Ravens 8-5. We're all 8-5, fifth through seventh,
Yeah.
and they're I believe 2 out of the Texans of the divisional.
Mhm.
So they're 2 games out of both of those situations for the
Yeah.
Colts,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But Dolphins, they've been winning. I'm not sure about their schedule for the remaining of the season. They
Mhm.
have a tough road ahead of them though to get into the playoffs. I don't think they make it, but they're making a push obviously with Tua back.
Yeah.
Um, and then the Bengals, I don't see it happening. Yeah, I think they'll be eliminated next week.
Yeah.
And the NFC is also interesting. Obviously, we're not in NFC, but also really interesting to watch there. Obviously,
Yeah.
the Rams and Niners play tonight, but a lot of good teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
I would say, like I was saying this a couple weeks ago, the AFC is wide open. This is for anyone's for the taking, the top
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
And NFC, you have the 2 juggernauts, Lions and Eagles.
Eagles.
And then you have Seahawks and Bucs over there, but then you have the Vikings and Packers. So the Vikings and Packers don't have home field advantage, but they can easily take out either of those teams
Yeah.
at third and fourth. So I look at it as anyone can win in the AFC, and then in the NFC, you have 4 teams that are competing here in the divisional, and may the best man win there.
Yeah. And you even have a team on the rise like the Commanders, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, it should be a fun playoffs.
yeah.
Um,
I think if the Commanders make it, if they hold on to that 7th, it's going to be tough because they're without Eckler, and Eckler was a big part of that team. If
yeah.
they can hold on and Eckler comes back, they're going to be scary in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know if they're going to be able to hold on because the Rams, they're marching like they beat the Bills. They're coming up. So it'll be interesting. But also the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Seahawks beat, I believe it was the Cardinals last week.
Mhm.
And I believe the Rams are a game behind the Seahawks. So Rams have 2 ways of getting into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So tonight's game is really big for them. But again, just goes to show that there's still a lot of undecideds. You never know what might happen from week to week.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's why this game against Tampa is so huge. You don't want to lose this and then be, on the bubble of
Right,
everything right now.
right.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario we're looking at here, Colts win, Chargers lose. That brings Colts 1 game behind the Broncos and the Chargers. Then it's a guarantee we got to win the next 3. And we don't want to be in that situation. Like we want to have a cushion.
yeah.
So this game is very important. And if you scroll up, I believe Tampa is 4th right now. Yeah. So they got to win to keep
Yeah.
that 4th seed.
Yeah.
So it's also a must win for them.
Yeah.
So we got to do everything possible to get this win Sunday. And if Bucky Irving doesn't play, hurts my fantasy team, but helps the Chargers. So that's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in a bind with I have Ladd and Garendo, and I'm trying to decide between those two. Like, and they're both gimpy. Are they going to play? Are they are they going to be effective? Who do I roll?
Is it PPR?
Non PPR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll
So
have to
that's
say
what
Ladd
makes
for
it
sure,
tougher. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because Garendo, like he's good, but he needs a touchdown. Like he's a
Yeah.
touchdown or bust type player.
Yeah. And
So
is he healthy enough? Yeah. If he's
right.
healthy, yeah, I'm rolling him out there. But is he? He's got
Yeah.
that foot sprain. So
Yeah. Who's projected more points?
Garendo.
Garendo.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the moment I started playing PPR, I've always played PPR from there. Like someone invites me and says happy PPR, I'm like, no, I don't want to get into that because
Yeah.
like PPR is just fun. It makes everyone relevant. Sometimes they like do a tight end bonus to like 0.5 for a catch. So that makes it more fun. Standard is like, okay, you gotta prioritize the RBs more.
Yeah.
But not RBs like Eckler, for example. RBs like
Yeah.
Derrick Henry. Like they're the most valuable. Derrick Henry
Yeah.
is probably the most valuable.
And I have Derrick Henry too. So. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I always like want to do PPR. Obviously for standard though, RB over the wide receiver, even though I love Lad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that injury that scares me, man. Like,
Yeah,
because I kind of feel more confident that Lad will be out there than
yeah,
it's Guerrero. Who the hell knows, you know?
right.
It's like, yeah.
I picked up Patrick Taylor like a couple days ago. Even if he plays, I'm not going to start him. It's just taking away from other
Yeah.
teams because like right now my team is so injury riddled. I have Eckler, Dobbins, and Tillman on IR. This just went down. So it's like, okay, I have no team. Like I literally have no one left in RB at least. So if Bucky's out, forget it. I'm done.
Yeah.
But I've kind of accepted that already in this one league. So it's just injuries have been a killer this year, I think, for many people. But yeah, it's always tough to decide these Thursday night games because you just never know what might happen. Like it could be a shootout or it could be extremely low scoring. I think it'll be a shootout tonight, but you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a guy who's always Chargers #1 over fantasy. I'll take the
Oh
Chargers
yeah.
winning over my fantasy teams any day. But I have some friends who will text me who claim to be big Charger fans, but they're more rooting for their fantasy. I'm like, get out of here, man.
Yeah, I remember in the beginning of the season, I had joined a dynasty league, and the draft had already happened. This was like the third year that the dynasty league is going on. So I said, okay, why not? It was just for fun. It was like I don't know, $30 league. So I was like, okay, that's worth it. So I got in and just traded almost everyone on that team. Traded for Herbert, traded for Lad. Actually, Lad was the easier one to get. Like I traded Waddle for Lad and Wandell Robinson, I think. I was like, dude, you're gonna give me both all day.
Yeah.
So I took that. And this was when Lad was really quiet in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And I was like, you realize this is dynasty? He goes, yeah, I want Waddle. I said, okay, have fun with them. And then Tua goes down, and like that just crashed his value. Then I traded Godwin a week before he got injured, so I got lucky there.
Yeah.
So I've been lucky, but I've also been very unlucky with injuries. But this particular league, I'm like 11-3 in now. I have the bye week, so that's good. But I completely redid that team. Traded DeAndre Swift for Dobbins. I got basically my Chargers guys first, and then got the rest. So it works in your advantage sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. But I get those guys. Like they text me, "Oh, do you think Glad's gonna get a touchdown today?" I'm like, "Why?" Touchdown prop. I'm like, bro, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
how do you want me to tell you? Like, look at the odds, and usually the
Yeah.
odds aren't great for touchdowns for wide receivers.
Yeah.
So I have no clue. I said, but chances are no, because he's not that type of player that's going to go out and get a 80-yard touchdown. You know, we've seen that happen against the Saints once, but it's not going to happen every game. He's more of a slant guy who's going to get a lot of catches. I said, bet on his receiving prop. He goes, oh, okay, good idea, and he got the over on that. So it's more receiving yards for Lad and receptions than it is touchdowns. But I get those texts like, or is Johnson going to get a touchdown? I said, if you want to risk 50-50, literally, whether he
Yeah.
catches that pass or not, go
Yeah.
for it. But I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so lucky in getting that trade I mentioned earlier in my PPR league. I traded Javonte Williams for Lad
Yeah,
right
that's
before
crazy.
Lad went off. Yeah. Yeah. That was a great trade for me.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. There was one I did earlier in the year. It was a PPR league, but this is redraft. Shaheed for Lad. And like 2 weeks later, Shaheed was out for the season. But I want to do more dynasty leagues, I think, because like redraft's fun. I want to have one redraft, but like dynasty is way better because like you can have these Chargers guys forever, basically until they retire. and don't have to hassle with people to trade because they want you to overpay. Like
Yeah.
because my name on fantasy football is Third and Lad, so, like they know already I'm a Chargers fan, so they want you to overpay for these guys, and I'm just so tired of it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do dynasty and be done. Forget redraft.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what else? Is there anything else about this game about the Bucs that you think we should be
I
watching
mean,
out for?
like you said, Vita Vea obviously is a threat. Um, they have other guys. I don't know how effective they've been this year, but they have other guys who can step up. I believe White, their right OLB, he's also a threat. But that secondary, it's just you gotta exploit that secondary. Um, and even last week we saw with Jacoby Myers, like he took advantage of that secondary. We got to see that from our receivers, and then offensively, just Trey Pipkins, man. That's the biggest weakness in my opinion, that right guard position. Because with Salyer in there, I feel like Bozeman and Zion do better because they can hold their ground. It's just that right guard. I don't know. Like I was saying on Monday, just put no one there. It makes no difference. It really doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, it's so crazy because we've seen that in Charger teams in years past. Usually it'd be right tackle where Pipkins was,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
and it's tough to see with great quarterbacks like Herbert and Rivers, just see them getting hit after hit. And
Yeah.
yeah, and before they were throwing picks because they wanted to get the ball out, take a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One thing that's interesting to me is how much praise Joe Burrow's getting. Look, the guy's playing incredible. He's playing out of his mind. No O-line. He's playing out of his mind. Okay.
yeah,
But Herbert was doing this a couple of years ago,
yeah,
and
nobody,
literally no one cared.
no,
You're talking about the losses.
yeah,
So now all of a sudden it's Joe Burrow. That's why we're going to talk about the stats and not the losses.
yeah,
Come on. And he has 2 wide receiver ones with him.
exactly.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah, and Herbert was doing that a lot of times with his wide receivers being injured, going
Yeah.
in and out, and
Yeah.
sometimes not having either of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was Herbert can't win. Herbert sucks.
Yeah. And with all due respect to Keenan, like he put up numbers for us. He wasn't Jamar Chase.
No,
Like Jamar Chase gets open downfield. You got a 7-yard touchdown right there.
yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I
But
will mention, Herbert did miss one throw against the Chiefs to
yeah,
Palmer. Palmer was open, probably would have had the touchdown. It was a rare miss for Herbert.
yeah. And a
It,
similar play happened in front of me at the Ravens game where he threw the Palmer deep. That was more of a miscommunication, I think. It was a good throw, and Palmer should have caught it. I think he just slowed down. He just didn't know where the ball was.
yeah,
So the connection isn't there. I don't know why. They had that connection before. So I don't know why it's not there. But I don't know. I don't see Palmer returning, like we've said. Even with him playing well on Sunday, I just don't see it. And maybe he's tuning out too. You never know. Like he wants to just perform for himself to get that contract in the offseason. But that connection is just weird how it's not there anymore.
yeah. That's why I was saying before the season, hey, could Palmer be the wide receiver one? Because we've seen him have such big games when the other receivers were out.
Yeah.
He's in a contract year. What else does he have to play for? And he had that connection with Herbert too. And then we see him just catching 1-2 passes every game. It's like he's tuned out or something. What's going on?
It seems that way.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of was like, yeah, no, Lad's going to be the wide receiver one this year because we brought him in for a reason. And just straight off the bat, he had that connection already with Herbert. So I'm glad that he's our wide receiver one. I again, I think if Palmer and Johnston play the way that they did on Sunday again against the Bucs this Sunday with Lad playing, there's no way we lose. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's a weird like mental motivation kind of thing because when you know Lad is out, you know you
Right.
have to be the guy. You got to catch that pass and keep it while you're taking the big hit like Johnston
Yeah.
did. Um,
Yeah.
but with Lad there, it's like he's gonna get 11 catches, over 100 yards. While I'm just running over here, just
Hey, he's getting open. You guys want
yeah,
the pass? Get open.
yeah,
Get open and catch the pass.
yeah,
That's the secret that Lad has that they don't. Like he gets open and catches the pass. How
yeah,
many times has he been targeted and how many times has he caught it? Pretty high percentage. So that's the difference. And every time Jordan Addison has these big games, I just go back to thinking, man, we could have had this guy instead of Johnston, or like Amon-Ra, we could have had this guy instead of Palmer. But it is what it is now. It's just fans bring it up all the time,
yeah.
and it just sucks that I think it was Zay Flowers who went right after Johnston, and then Addison 2 picks later. It's like
Yeah.
two guys right there who didn't have that big of a college career, but Johnston did. But now, you're seeing the difference in the three.
Yeah. Hey, I still believe in Johnson. He's doing great at getting touchdowns. Getting
Yeah,
open for touchdowns.
I think that's where he's improved a lot.
Yeah,
Is in the end zone,
yeah,
and if he's that reliable target for Herbert, I think it paid off because that's what matters at the end of the day is the 6 points. With
yeah,
Zay, he's too small, and Addison gets open downfield, and gets those touchdowns. But in the end zone, particularly, Johnson's the guy.
yeah. And I think Johnson's the type of guy. It's like basketball where you just need to touch the ball early. You
Yeah,
need to feed Johnson early to get him involved, get him, mentally in the game. Just get him a little
yeah.
quick slant or something. So he gets that layup and he gets that confidence going.
Mhm.
You know, um,
Yeah, I want to see some play actions Sunday because like this is a
yeah,
team that you can exploit. Like I said, like play action. Let's go to Johnston. Let's go to Ladd. Let's try Chark. You never know.
yeah.
We've seen him throw deep balls to Rager. Let's see it go to Chark now.
The only thing with the play action is, that they're studying tape. They see we haven't been running the ball these last few games.
Right,
How effective is the play action?
right. No, I'm
We
hoping that we get the run game going first,
yeah,
and then you hit
yeah,
him with the play action. But if that
yeah,
run game's not going, forget it.
yeah,
That run game needs to get it going. Like we can't have any more 1 or 2 yards per carry. It's just inexcusable. At least 3, and that's per carry, right? Like we got to be set for 3rd and 4.
yeah. And we have the tackles to do it. We can't go up the middle, but hey,
The problem,
let's
I think, what I've noticed is they're going too much to the left. They're focusing on that left side a lot and not going to the right. And defenses are noticing that obviously.
yeah,
So you got to switch it up a bit. I know that Pipkins are just that bad, but bring Salyer in. Let's see what he can do. Again, it's not complicated, man. Let's just try him out before the playoffs.
yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting to see. This is a rare game I won't be at SoFi. I have a different film event I'll be at instead, but I'll be there in spirit, man.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'll definitely be at the Broncos game. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That game, regardless of what happens Sunday, is a must-win.
yeah,
You got to beat the Broncos.
yeah, yeah. I can just imagine the doom and gloom if we
Oh man,
lose the next two or just lose against the Broncos.
if we
Yeah,
lose the next 2,
yeah,
Chargers Twitter is going to explode.
yeah,
They're going to call for everybody's heads.
yeah,
Roman, the Arby's, Pipkins, everyone, man. It's going to be, oh man, it's going to be so bad.
yeah.
I
But
don't think we lose 2 though. I think
I
we
don't
win
think
at
so.
least 1. I think we can win both, but at least 1 we take here.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But remember to subscribe and smash that like button. Drop us a comment, ask a question, and head over to Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code BOLT. They'll match up to $1,000. And man, let's get that win on Sunday.
Yep.
All
Go
right,
Chargers.
go Chargers. See ya.